All right, I think we're live. I'm Peter Brousseau, and this is 101 Small Business Mastermind. And today we have our cadre of qualified individuals. Dick, you want to say good morning?
Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday.
Okay, that's of course Dick Bentley and Mark Syringa.
No, Frank, not. It's
Oh,
Frank Syringa.
Frank
Yeah,
Syringa.
my
I was
brother.
so focused on the last name. I'm sorry, Frank. Say
Yeah,
good morning.
my brother couldn't make it. Yeah, good morning and happy July 3rd.
Okay, yeah, we're getting close to the 4th of July here for sure.
Yes,
Um,
excited.
Yeah, and you know, 4th of July from the fireworks standpoint, never been very much for that, and everybody couldn't figure out why I wasn't interested in them. I'm colorblind. I can't see anything. Everybody's oogling on at the colors, and I don't see any of that stuff. So it's like, why bother?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay. So today we're going to do a lesson on Google Analytics, and the story before I get there is Google Analytics is free. You can get it at google.com/analytics, and you can sign up and get code that you put in your website. Okay, and why do you want to do that? Well, the most important thing I think in Google Analytics is to understand what pages are visited, first, second, third, fourth, that kind of thing. There's so much data that I don't want people to get overwhelmed with it, but I'm going to share my screen and start to talk about a sales funnel, which is just the practical side of everything. We want to make sure that, yes, I got to find, oh, you know what? I did it again. Okay, hang on. And tut, why can't I find it now? I hope I didn't close it because I can see it back there. And give me a second here. We just had it too. What was up with that? Let me pop over to it. It might not. I might have closed it by accident. No, there it is. Okay. All right. Hang on. All these technical difficulties. Google has been, the Hangouts have been tough today. It decided it wanted to do several things, and I still don't see it. What the heck? Oh, here it is. Okay. All right. So, guys, tell me when you see my screen. And
Got it.
okay, Dick, you got it?
Yeah, I have it, yes.
Okay, so big drink of water, listeners, viewers. But basically, this is one of my sites that's been whacked by Google for various reasons. But there's some interesting data here. On the side, you can see there's just a whole host of different things you can look at, who's on it real time, the audience, etc. And you can do AdWords and social sites and see all this good stuff. But right now, I'm down under behavior. And so this behavior, for example, like yesterday I had 66 page views, and page views aren't the important thing, it's unique visitors are, and I think it was only 9, which is really ridiculously low, but it shows you right here what pages they went to. Okay, everybody almost, this is not surprising, lands on the index page of a site, but where did they go next? In my case, they went to the self-defense weapons overall page to see what they're all about. From there, they went to the starter kit, which is where everybody, I'm hoping to get them to that page, which it says, in fact, I did. And then they dive through a couple of different models. You can see which ones they're really looking at. There's 4 of those right there. Special offer, another model, and the online university. And I can actually show more data. Let's show the top 50 pages. Okay, so as we move on down here, you can see here's where we stopped before. They looked at the Mental Warrior, the monthly special, limited packages, lanyards, knife target, because I make those very specialized targets. But you can really start to see where people are going. So a sales funnel is you take the top pages and make sure that you have offers for your services or your product really prominent on those pages, and it necks them down to making an order. The other thing that's important to note is the bounce rate. And bounce rate is when somebody comes into the site, says, oh, this isn't what I'm looking for, and leaves the site. There's one of my clients has a bounce rate of 50%. And when a bounce rate is that high, you have to ask yourself, how are they getting there, and what do they think they're going to go see? And that starts to show when your bounce rate starts to drop, like mine is phenomenally low, then in fact my keywords, which we've talked about before, my organic keywords are absolutely doing their job, and only traffic that is interested in those particular keywords are landing and they're sticking on the site. So I'm going to continue. Do you guys have any questions on this particular view right now?
Well, Peter, I assume it's just mine, but I don't see the report. All I see is your logo.
It's up now.
Your one-on-one marketing podcast. Okay, well,
It's up now. It seems like when you talked, it went away.
Right.
Okay, well, it's still showing mine's up, but
Okay.
all right. Let me show a little bit more. Some of the interesting stuff. I mean, you can. Let's look at the audience, the overall audience, and it tells you by country, what operating system the browsers are coming in on. Okay, crazy. Let's look at the age demographics. My highest age demographics are between 25 and 34. I get 33% of all of my traffic. So what's good about that is that I could write ad copy or write stuff that speaks just to that age group if I wanted to. Okay? There are 45% females coming in and 54% males. So almost an even split. Interesting. And so I should be able to write to both sides of that coin as well. And then categories of interest that they came in from: sports, individual sports, running and walking. Can you believe that? I mean, that's crazy. So you can go through here. We already looked at the gender. Let's look at the overall interests and see what we got going on here. Okay, we already did that. Let's take a look at geo. Here's the languages. Let me see. Percentage-wise, 67% speak English. Then there's a 60. Oh, that's interesting. And 86 of them are coming in from Great Britain. Interesting. Of course, that's not too surprising. Location-wise, we can take a look at the location, and when this map comes up here, you can see that people have visited me from Russia, India, Australia, South Africa, Saudi Arabia. That's kind of scary. Libya is even worse. Turkey, Great Britain at 43, 310 sessions from the United States, 19 sessions from Canada. So you can kind of see where people are coming from. New versus returning is very important. And it says here basically that I got 338 new visitors and 158 returning visitors, just about half. So my retention and interest is half, and that's a pretty good number. And so it also says that I'm captivating them enough to come back to look some more. And the average time on the site is 3 minutes 41 seconds. I'd like to see that higher, mind you, but that's pretty cool. And my returning visitors are spending 5 minutes on the site, so it's outrunning the original performance. So that's pretty crazy. Anybody got any questions on this?
Well, Peter, as you're going through these things, the interpretation of this data is obviously critical, and this breakdown really gives you the ability to look at every facet. What do you consider to be the top 3 or 4 analytics that you really look at as a business owner using the web to generate sales on your self-defense site?
The ones that I just talked about are the key ones I think of. I like to know who's coming, and what pages they're staying on, how long they're staying, and what the bounce rate is.
Right.
And that allows me to make sure I've got my best offers on those pages. And then finally, looking at the demographics of males and females and age groups also allows me to kind of write specific ad copy to them. And, you know, for example, the 25 to 35, they probably are just coming out of college and having a career. So you might want to talk about, you know, why you would want a self-defense weapon in colleges, and carry that on into your career with you when you have to travel on subways or anything else and walk in dark parked areas, and you know you can tailor make your ad copy to that.
Right. Is there a way that you could take that information and push advertisement out to these people over the net through their emails or where they came into your site?
No, you don't gather that traffic at all. I mean, part of the stuff you can do, they have a social. You can define what your social media is and see what social media is coming in, and you might be able to do something there. But the answer is no. That's why it's so important to have what I use is Aweber, which allows people to opt into my newsletter. Then I grab their data, and then I can push stuff out to them.
Okay, great. I think did Mark just join us?
I don't know. I'm not looking.
I see him.
Hey. Look at that. Hey, all right.
All the way from Alaska.
All the way from Alaska. Looks like you got a sweater on and a wrap. Are you cold?
It's a little chilly. It's definitely not 170.
Yeah, well, you look so funny being in all that stuff.
Yeah.
Here we're in air conditioning, and you are certainly trying to. Okay, good. Well, so everybody, this is Mark Gillone, and he's with New York Life, and is one of our mastermind people. And the fact that you could call in from Alaska like this from your cell phone, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm on the cell.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, so back over to my side. A little bit on the analytics is so important. And by the way, you can put analytics, Google Analytics, on your blog sites, any of your properties, just about, and be able to track data. Now, you can get lost in analytics and go crazy looking at everything, and I don't suggest that, but you certainly want to use that as a tool to define and refine, you know, how you want to present your site to your visitors, and how to use that for your business. So, any other questions before we swing over to Frank?
Yeah, I do. Since this is called Google Analytics, I assume it's available on Google. Is it available on YouTube as well?
I don't know that you can put it over on YouTube, but what I didn't show you is that the Google Analytics also tracks traffic from Bing, Yahoo, coming to your site too. So it does look at all the major search engines. Also, didn't mention, but it also tells you if any sites are referring traffic to you. Okay, that's important. Whether they're finding you organically, which is important, or by paid AdWords, which I can't use. Thank you very much, Google. But it does give you a whole bunch of metrics like that. Very cool.
Well, Peter, this isn't a question. It's more of a statement. I know you're concerned about putting too much information at once out to our viewers because it could become mind-numbing and get overwhelming. So, you know, hopefully in the future you'll break down even more kind of, you know, how to use the analytics, how you get it. And I know you've talked about Market Samurai and these different things. So maybe on a weekly basis we can just get further into this. Like I think Frank said, how to eat an elephant, just a bite at a time, and maybe just, you know, explain even deeper to our audience what this is all about.
Yeah, we could certainly do that for sure. I'll kick that around. I might take Google Analytics and take another piece of it and talk about the importance of, you know, those particular traits maybe. And Market Samurai, I could certainly would love to give a session on that because it's crazy powerful. And again, so key to what we do.
Yeah, and you could have the best site in the world if you don't have the right keywords and things that go into that, and then you don't take advantage of the analytics, you're missing a great piece of the success story you could have. So I think this is really important information.
Yeah, the like I said, I have one client that has a 50% bounce rate, and what that says is that the people that are coming to the site are looking for something else. And so our keywords for that site that we just did, by the way, so they're really not out there. It's too early yet, but they'll be more specific, and we'll see that bounce rate drop down dramatically. The other part of bounce rate, and Frank had asked this earlier, what does it really mean? Well, when they land on the front page, if your front page is hard to use or a mess, they're going to bounce off that site. They're going to find something that's more friendly to use. So it's real important to understand to build your website. We've talked about this before, but if you have a high bounce rate off that front page, one of your biggest questions is, let's look at that front page. Is it interesting? Does it have a video on it to snag them and keep them in there? And every one of my important pages has videos on them, and you can see why my bounce rates might be so low because of that.
Great.
All right.
Super.
So, Mr. Jalone.
Yes, sir.
Where the heck are you in Alaska?
Downtown Anchorage.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I think we have to kind of do this, where's Waldo? And you're now Waldo. Last week we did have a Where's Waldo moment with Frank. And, oh, by the way, Frank, I think I've got the Where's Waldo figured out. We'll talk offline about the ageless secret Where's Waldo stuff, okay?
Good.
And just joining us is Mark Giardino. Morning, Mark.
Good morning, everybody. How are you?
Good. Are you outside too?
Yes, I'm in San Gabriel, California.
Oh, wow.
At the moment.
That's why you're not sweating to death.
Yeah, I'm kind of cool. I'm outside, not sweating. Life is good.
Yeah, and Giardino's at the Jalone's at the other end where he has to be all buttoned up. Look at him. There you go. Okay, let's head on over to Frank.
Okay, yes, this is something I call Twin This Week in the News, the small business lessons that we get from the latest news headlines. And I have three this week. And I put together a format. I will give you the headline, then a little bit of background of what the headline, where it's coming from, what it means, and so forth. And I'll close with what I consider to be the small business lesson from that particular news item. Twin number one, and I wish I had a ticker tape sound to make it more authentic. Number one, Supreme Court bans Aereo TV service due to copyright infringement. And that happened this past week. Aereo TV, let me a little bit of background on Aereo TV. Aereo TV was founded in February of 2012, so it's a little more than 2 years old. And what they did is they developed a little antenna that you can put in your home, and it's internet connected to the free airways of your local broadcast channels, and allows you to watch streaming live TV from your local channels, including the sports and the news and all their local programs, and allows you to save it and time it. And they did very well. Well, then sounds like a great product. What's going on here? Well, Aereo TV says, hey, since all of these transmissions are done over the free airways, it's free that anybody, even if that, maybe Jalome and Giardino don't remember this, but we used to have something called rabbit ears when we were kids. By the way, can you all hear that background noise?
Yeah, that's probably Joe.
Giardino, the wind is drowning us out, the wind noise.
Yeah, Giardino, or Jalone, mute yourself while you're outside there.
Yeah, okay, cool. Anyway, so Aereo TV say, these are free airways, I'm going to capture it and do some stuff, and oh, by the way, I'm going to charge you a monthly fee for doing this. And the major broadcast network said, wait a minute, sounds like you're a cable TV provider, and you've got to pay me for my stuff. And Aereo says TV says, no, I'm just another end. It's no big deal. and they fought about it. And they fought about it and went as far as the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court, well, we know what the decision was, says, no, you are a cable company, and you've got to pay for the rights. So I was thinking, well, wait a minute. How could these renegades not know that? So I looked a little bit about who was backing Aereo TV. And one of the biggest backers was a gentleman named Barry Diller, who is now chairman of IAC. Barry Diller is a heavy hitter. He was a former chairman of Paramount Pictures, so he knows the movie business and the copyrights. He was a former chairman of Fox Broadcasting, which some of us love and others don't love it. So he knows about TV rights and so forth. The gentleman is worth over $2.4 billion, but they thought they could get around the copyright infringement laws. And the court came down and says, no. And Aereo TV had to shut down within days. The small business lesson, and Peter, I'd like to have you comment after I talk about this in a minute, but you and I had this discussion about a month ago. You've got to respect copyright laws. Someone once described to me the internet as the world's largest copy machine. Oh, there's that picture. I'll take that picture. Oh, there's that music that I downloaded on YouTube. I can use it as a background for my website. And the fact of the matter is, you cannot. So even Mr. Barry Diller, $2.4 billion gentleman, Aereo TV, funded by a lot of VC firms, Supreme Court says, no way, get out of here, respect copyright laws. Peter, any comments about that?
I have mixed views on that one. I think they probably made the right call, but it's too bad that somebody didn't have a backup plan to go ahead and pay for that, because they had a great little device and a great marketing plan, and they were really cranking away out there and gave people flexibility that they currently don't have from other cable providers. So they could have been, even though they're really not a cable company, which is what they were trying to say, that we have no cable. You know, their office was in Dallas, and there's just a small antenna array. That's it. And so, I have mixed emotions over that. I was hoping that they wouldn't shut them down like that, but they did.
Well, again, I was watching the news this week, and there's a company, and I have not looked them up yet. If they're interesting enough, I'll talk about them next week, called Simply TV, Simply.TV, I think it's called. And they've developed a TiVo-like device. And they were being interviewed on this business show I was watching, and they believe that they do something similar to Aereo, but they will not fall into the copyright infringement. So I'll think about that. Okay, that's twin number two. Marketing lessons from World Cup 2014. I don't know if any of you have heard this. There's a soccer tournament going on in Brazil called the World Cup. Whether you're a soccer fan or a football fan outside of the U.S., it has dramatically exceeded expectations. Up until recently, the world's largest TV audience was the Sochi Olympics, and that's because of the dispersion of TV devices and internet devices and so forth. And Sochi just blew everything away, which we had recently. The World Cup is now doubling that audience. That's how big it is. ESPN, which has the rights for this year's World Cup, they're just breaking all sorts of records. 70-80% increase, not only on their TV but also on their streaming devices. By the way, Fox Sports has the rights to the World Cup for the next two World Cups. I think one's going to be in Dubai, Qatar. Anyway, so it is the world's largest sporting event. You can imagine it's become a boon for advertisers and brands to say, hey, let me get my message out. And they're paying big bucks because they're side of the audience. Now, small business owners cannot afford to advertise on the World Cup on an international, even a national basis. But there are lessons that small business owners can learn from how these huge brands are marketing. And I have the five lessons, and I'll come back and reformat that into small business area. Lesson number one, which the large brands are doing, they're using the theme of let's bring people together, which is what the World Cup is all about. It's all about nationalism and pride, and people from probably countries that don't like each other are sitting next to each other in stands and rooting for their country. Interesting that the ads that are being that are most effective, they're not talking about how good their products are. They're not talking about how cheap their products are. They're not talking about how big their companies are. The theme of their ads are how you, Mr. and Mrs. Customer, will feel after you use my products. It's all about bringing people together who want to get a certain feeling. Number two, they're utilizing emotions. They want to get the viewer to react emotionally. Now, I've seen a number of the worldwide ads, and some of them are quite well, very expensive and very good. Emotional people tend to remember the ad as opposed to, let me give you a bunch of facts and figures. And emotional connections allows you to engage with the viewer, which has been good. Number three, they are integrating all of their ads in with their social media campaigns, with the Facebooks and the Tumblrs and the Pinterest and the ones that I don't even know about yet. Okay. Number four, they are making their ads memorable by tying it to a storyline. They're utilizing stories in all of their most effective ads. I saw one put on by Nike this past week, in which they took the top soccer players in the world, Cristiano Ronaldo from Portugal, Messi from Argentina, Neymar from Brazil, and others that Balotelli from Italy, and they created animated features, and they told a story about when they were kids in the ghettos of their particular country, and how they came out to Brazil to play this great game called football or soccer. So they're using stories as opposed to facts and figures. And number five, they're doing everything on a timely basis. They're reacting to events as they happen. I don't know if you all heard about it. A gentleman named Luis Suarez from Uruguay was playing against Italy, against Ciccolini. Ciccolini, I think is his name. And he was losing, and he went to his shoulder and bit him on his shoulder. And the referee didn't call it, but he's now been suspended for 4 months. Within, I don't know how long it took, McDonald's had an ad showing Luis Suarez from Uruguay with the tagline, "Take a bite of a Big Mac instead."
I just wrote that down. I was going to say that I was going to make a joke out of it. The Jack in the Box. You can legally take a bite out of their burger.
Right. Trident.
Wow.
Trident gum had one that says "Chew Trident, not soccer players."
That's good.
TGI Fridays, which I just a national chain, had an ad running that says Uruguay was hungry for the win. But the one I liked the best was one that Snickers wrote, the candy bar. It says Snickers, more satisfying than an Italian. Anyway, let me down into what I consider the 5 business lessons that I believe small business owners can take from marketing in these ads. Number one, do not, and this is on your messaging that you want to give to your prospects or your clients. Don't elaborate what you do. Elaborate how your customer is going to feel after they join you or after they engage you. Number two, use emotions, not data. Data is boring. Emotions are intriguing. Number three, integrate it with your social media campaigns. Number four, use stories, not facts. And I'll talk about Dick Bentley in a minute. And number five, be timely and relevant. Apple, which had probably the most talked about ad of 1984, which they ran in the Super Bowl. I don't know if you know that when they were introducing the Mac. Man, that was 30 years ago. They ran that ad only once. Okay, so be timely. So talk about stories, and before I get to twin number three. I've known Dick for longer than anybody here on this broadcast, and I've heard him talk about Legal Shield a number of times, and I attended a meeting with him that he was the main speaker at last Tuesday morning. And he was talking about Legal Shield. And I said, okay, I've heard it all before. And he had a bunch of facts and figures. But in the middle of his talk, he told maybe a 39-second story about how he used Legal Shield in one of his personal things that he was dealing with. And it hit me like a ton of bricks. I said, now I know what Legal Shield does. He was mentioning all these facts and figures about percentage doing this, percentage for all that. I said, well, that'll never be me. That's not me. That's me. And then he told that one story about how it affected him personally. And I mentioned to him after the meeting. And that was so relevant and so powerful to me, Dick, that I still talk about it, and I'm not going to talk about this weekend to my in-laws. That's a critical story. So, okay, that was
Okay, well,
twin
thank
number
you.
2. Twin number 3. Yeah, no, it was awesome, Dick. I thought it was just tremendous. Twin number 3, and for a reason that you'll know at the end, I'm not going to tell you what the headline is. I'm going to tell you the background first, and then I'll tell you the headline at the end. This gentleman was born in Brooklyn to immigrant parents. Parents come over obviously they came over from Europe. They parents supported their family running a little retail store. So it was not surprising that this gentleman, when he became a teenager, mid to late teens, he wanted to be self-employed because his parents were self-employed. So he chose a profession that he felt he could be good at. However, they said, you know what? To be successful in this particular career profession, you need to have two things going for you. Let's call them A and B. Well, he looked at him. He says, well, A, I'm not very good at. And A, no matter how hard I try, I could never come close to matching the other people that are in my profession. But B, I bet you I could be really, really good at this. And so what he did, rather than spend his time and money trying to improve marginally this thing called A, which I'll tell you about what it is in a minute, he spent most of his time and money getting the best at what he could be at B, which was more natural for him. And he had a very successful career that spanned over 60 years when a lot of his peers who were really good at A burned out. So the small business lesson I have here is everybody has a weakness, everybody has a strength, and it's different for everybody. Your weaknesses, accept it. Accept it. Do what you can to become acceptable, not acceptable at it, no more, but really strengthen your strengths. I think Sally Hogshead has a line, don't change who you are, be more of who you are. Make your strength that much stronger. You all want to know what the headline is? Here's the headline. Actor Eli Wallach died at the age of 98 this past week. A was movie star looks. If we all know who Eli Wallach is, he wasn't the most handsome man in the world, but he good man. But he didn't spend time and money with bodybuilding and cosmetic surgery and stuff. He says, hey, I am who I am, but you know what? I'm going to be the best damn actor I can be in terms of acting. And in fact, I just downloaded a movie of his, which I didn't even know existed, called Baby Doll. And he was in Godfather 3. And he was working in fact, he has a couple of films coming out that are still in post-production at the age of 98. So, concentrate on your strengths, make your weaknesses acceptable, and go forward. And gentlemen, those are my twin lessons for this week.
Very cool. Dick, would you be able to share that story that was a mind opener for Frank?
Sure. As people may or may not know, I'm an independent associate with Legal Shield, and as an independent associate, we market and sell prepaid legal programs for individuals and companies. My story is I've been a member for approximately a year and a half now, and as an associate for the same amount of time. And I've used the attorneys at Legal Shield around 6 times now. And the one story I told was last January, my garage door opener went on, and I called a local guy, came and installed a LiftMaster, a top of the line type of a thing, and it lasted for a month and it stopped working. So I called him, he came back and he replaced it, and that lasted for 3 months and it stopped working. I'm sorry, 3 weeks rather, it stopped working. So I called him again, and he said, well, he's not going to replace it because he thinks my garage door is too heavy. And I said, well, you knew my garage door weight when you put that in, so I don't think that's my responsibility. And 2, I have a warranty, so you have to replace it. He said, I'm not. And I said, fine, I'll call my law firm. So I called my law firm in California and explained the situation. They wrote a letter to this company, and a week later the company's in there putting in a new and different version of the garage door opener, because the one that they had put in, that I since found out they had a factory problem with them. They're having that happen all over the place. So I pay $19.95 a month for that service. It was a $135 bill, and I never would have called an attorney if I didn't have Legal Shield for less than $1 a day. So the point I was making is it's there for the important things, but it's also there for the trivial things that you would normally not contact attorney. So that's the story.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, again, and the point I make to Dick is he was mentioning all these facts about businesses, and they're all valid, and they're all very important. All you need is one case, and you'll more than pay for your legal shield fee many times over. But I'm saying, you know what? I said, Dick, you're telling all these things. I said, that's not going to affect me. Not going to affect me. But everyone I know has been screwed somewhere by some vendor, either not unscrupulous or because they just got too busy and they ignore you. But the minute you said, I'll have my law firm contact you, and they sent a letter, bang, that was awesome. That was so powerful. So.
Yeah, they have some real teeth, when you start talking like that. But as I pointed out, I've spent tens of thousands of dollars on attorneys. When you have patents and whatnot, that just goes along with the territory and contracts, non-disclosure agreements, and all the other stuff. So I think it's extremely valuable. Obviously, I'm a member, and so that's a good thing. Yeah. Okie dokie.
But I think that to Frank's point, to the small business people, and I'm a real small business person. I have a home-based business, and one of the things that network marketers are trained on and told all the time that stories sell, and so I always try to tell a couple stories when I'm talking to people. During the presentation, there's a group of people I just want to make aware of the potential of the market. But stories do sell, and I think it's important for anyone that's marketing or selling a product or a commodity or whatever it may be, that they have some stories, success stories on how they or someone else they know has benefited from using their product. And I think Peter going through that with Age of Secret, and we're all, and I think it's an important fact. I agree with Frank. As you guys are probably going to be shocked, I agree with him 100%. That stories do sell, and I think it's important that you have good, succinct, accurate stories.
And in that point, let me throw out a story, Frank. So I ended up with these Canadian clients who one have just died on March 1st or May 1st, but they showed up at my house. They're snowbirds. And you haven't been out here, but my house is a destination. It's not a drive-by. You have to want to really come to this particular spot. And anyway, didn't know who they were. We got talking, showed them the house because they were interested in houses and stuff. Anyway, long story short, I ended up with them as a web client. And they had a web for 10 years and did not make $1, not a single dollar off the web. And so I taught them. They actually came here every day, even on the weekends, for almost 45 days. I used my Windows as my whiteboard. Dick seen me do that. Yep. I started the whole lecture series that we're familiar with here, the keywords and how to use them and how everything's tied together. And I let them do whatever lifting they wanted to do. I did the heavy lifting. We built their site, lewiswinch.com. And the first year, Frank, they made $185,000 off the web.
Wow.
Yeah.
This stuff works, period. And, it just goes to show you they had no keywords and a very poor converting site, so poor they converted nothing. Conversion means, who do you get to be clients or customers. And then 2 years later, Frank, another interesting thing. They had another product called lewismultidrill.com. And so we did the website, did the same thing, put it up. And in the first 2 weeks, which is phenomenal, they made $225,000 off that site in orders and nothing for the rest of the year. The web is so unpredictable at times, but the part that is predictable is if you don't use keywords and you don't understand Google Analytics and you don't understand your customers and you don't have good ad copy and you can't make conversion, you have an online brochure that you can send people to, but nobody's going to do anything. So there's two stories, interesting stuff.
Right.
Well, you're interesting,
Mr.
Peter, because again, you have a short attention span. I'm a soundbite guy. I will remember 10% of what you talked about in the beginning of this podcast for about 10 minutes, and I'm going to forget most of it. But I'm going to remember those two stories.
Well,
I'm going to remember those two stories.
I get geeked out, as you know, so I mean, it has, and I'm passionate about it, which is exactly who you want to have working with you, somebody who's passionate about what they do. But the important lesson to walk away for any of the small businesses is that Google Analytics is important to embrace, and you need it to develop your sales funnel on your web, and after that, you use it to see your bounce rate and the other pieces. But it's an incredibly important tool to look at on a weekly basis. Don't have to do it on a daily basis. And you can overanalyze everything, but the web takes a while for things to get cranked up because of the inertia of the web is so big, and that's good news and bad news. So the bad news of it is once you get stuff going that's good, it doesn't seem to want to stop. So that's a good thing too.
Well, if I can use an analogy, because that's how I relate to things, let me compare Google Analytics to Jay Leno. What the hell is he by Jay Leno? Okay. When my wife and I lived in Orange County, there was a comedy club up there. I think it was Hermosa Beach. And Jay Leno, once a month, once every 2 months, would go and try new material that before he brought it to the Tonight Show. And it was pretty cool. I mean, you sit there and hear Jay Leno, and Jay Leno knew immediately whether a joke worked or didn't work because of the audience reaction. Right?
For sure.
Right?
Yep.
Google Analytics is your audience reaction. You will know, not immediately, you will know the minute you run your report whether you want to keep that joke, change that web change that offer, change that wording, change that keyword. It is your audience reaction. It is the comedy club's audience reaction to your jokes. Is how I compare Google Analytics to your website. If that makes any sense.
Mark Giardino, why don't you weigh in a little bit on keywords and Google Analytics?
Yeah. Well, that's one of my favorite subjects. And
I know. You watch it every day.
Yeah. What I find about Google Analytics is that it's a real time. And what I mean by real time is we build our websites and we have these ideas that we're going to get this type of client to our website or this demographic or this age group. But then once we look at our Google Analytics, we realize who is coming to our website, what age group, where they're coming from, what search words they're using, and those are the real facts. And again, we speculate all the time personally, I'm going to use this keyword, I'm going to use this idea. But once we dabble into our Google Analytics, we see the real results. So then once we have those real results, then we adjust where we're going and what are keywords and what direction and what demographics we're going to. And I think that is one of the keys to Google Analytics, is we see the real time and real information, not speculation.
Yeah, good point. And that is exactly, we might not like to see what we're seeing either. That happens quite frequently. But it's the truth. You got to embrace the truth, and it will set you free. What do they say, right? Something like that.
And how many times, and I just want to say one quick thing, Peter. How many times we think, this keyword or that keyword will work. But then we look at our Google Analytics and we see keywords that we didn't even think about, that somehow they're getting onto our webpage.
Yeah, and then next week I think Dick I'll do a Market Samurai piece to try. I'll get that all scheduled to go, because Market Samurai, I was using it for 3 hours this morning with a client in a teaching mode, and in exactly what Mark said is true. We found stuff that you wouldn't even think of, and that's the cool part about Market Samurai. And stuff that we thought would be good was garbage because they had no searches at all. And Market Samurai is literally our bow wave tool that I use to find the handful of keywords that we're going to use and sprinkle onto the site and optimize around. Of course, I call that my fairy dust. We sprinkle our fairy dust on the site, but and then use it out on the exterior web pages that we create: blogs, Facebooks, Twitters, Pinterest, etc., Instagram. So at any rate, yeah, I can't say they're not super magical if we don't use them. Everybody thinks, okay, I got my keywords on my site, now where's all this traffic? It doesn't work that way either. You got to get it off board and get links back to the site to be able to start to have Google notice those keywords.
Yep.
So.
And again, I just want to mention it does take some time. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
we always hear these great stories that people make an X amount right away, but on average, it does take time.
Right. I think one of the ads that just really hurt us in the web business, I think it was right around 2000, 1999, when the web 1.0 collapsed on itself. UPS put out an ad, and here were all these people centered around a website, and they're going to upload their new site, and they uploaded it, and then within seconds you see a counter of how many people are ordering, and then it got like thousands upon thousands and 10,000 orders, and everybody's going crazy. And how are we going to fulfill that? UPS. Well, the impression was you put up a site and you're going to make a lot of money. And people remembered that. That's a story, Frank, right? That's one of your stories. And
Yep.
and I can't tell you how many of my clients I have to manage their expectations, because right off the bat, just because we do all this stuff still doesn't mean you're going to get any traffic until we start to utilize it. And now I'm trying to tell them a story where we built a great long-distance runner on your website. Now we have to put them in races to get noticed. And those races are social media, blogs being one of them, podcasts like this, and lacing them with our keywords. And so it's very interesting. You've got to under promise and over deliver always, but you also have to manage the expectations. And there are these exceptions, like Mark talked about, to the rule, like multi-drill, the Lewis multi-drill, making so much money so quickly and then going quiet, going dark. You have to scratch your head. What the heck, So doesn't happen overnight, but it will happen ultimately if you use it. You got to be active with it, and that's another thing about every person that makes a web page. Now, Mark will back me up on this. Making a website is certainly the first thing you've got to do with those keywords, but then you've got to be active with it. You've got to move it. You've got to talk about it. You've got to podcast with it. You've got to do all these off-page SEO techniques to get people to back to your site. You just can't put it up and hope for the best.
And also, Peter, you and I mentioned this, and I was reading about it this week. Again, I don't think this is something new to us, but we got to keep putting it in our minds that content is king, but also relative content is king.
Relevant content, yes, absolutely. It's got to be. And I mean, in the case of agelesssecret.com, absolutely phenomenal product. But if we start talking about human growth hormones, anti-aging, it's not relative to the product. And that what happens there is your bounce rate goes through the roof again. You're absolutely right. We need fresh content on sites to grow, and it has to be relevant content to your business, and your keywords have to be relevant to the material, the content. If you had a keyword that was completely, like in my case, self-defense weapon, and I have a tank, an Abrams tank, well, that's stupid. And people might go there, but it's not relevant to what I'm doing. Although I might get a lot of traffic from the DoD or something, it's just not the right answer. It's kind of a bait and switch problem.
And what I'm finding, too, that is very powerful about relative content is that when you write relative content, people read it.
Yeah.
And then when they appreciate it, they send backlinks to other websites, other social medias, different areas on the web. So then, out of the blue, when you do a research on your links, you'll find your articles in places that you would never think about.
Right.
And those are some heavy, that's a very powerful on the web, is you write a relative article or something, people read about it, and then they give you a reference by giving you a backlink to something else, and then it just dominoes from there.
Yeah, it can be. I mean, Dick and I did a couple weeks ago a really, really good podcast on when you become a Legal Shield member, you actually have your own site that you can go see what's going on, get forms, and I mean, it was an eye-opener for me. I tweeted that out, and it got retweeted. So we got a lot of retweets off that. And I think if it wasn't good content, Mark, they wouldn't have retweeted that at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And again, with Palm Springs Sport, I find my links in social medias and also in other reference websites that they backlink Palm Springs Sport to their reference site. So,
right.
So and
again, you don't know where it's going to go.
Right. And again, it comes from great keyword content.
I had a guy, Frank. I had a guy who bought one of my self-defense tools, and I think he was in Atlanta, maybe somewhere in the South. Drank a bit too much beer, was bored, took the tool out, looked at it, and his kids or the people he were visiting had sidewalk chalk. So he drew a huge picture of the tool on the sidewalk, and then named each part of the tool, and took a picture and sent it to me. And that picture went everywhere. This guy would, make a picture, sidewalk chalk picture of the tool and how cool it is and what each piece can do to somebody, And that got tweeted, backlinked. It was amazing. And it's just like what you say, Mark. You just don't know if it's good content and something, and that's really excellent content. Third-party content, even. I mean, actually, I guess it's second-party content. Did not come from me as a marketing item. Came from a satisfied client. That's even more relevant.
Right, and then they recommend it. It's not your recommendation. They recommend it, and it's pretty nice.
Which is what the whole part of social media is all about. People, and we've been doing this for hundreds of years, if not thousands. If I needed a good dentist, I might ask Dick, do you know a good dentist? And he say, yeah, this guy's really good, or ask Frank, whatever. We 93% of the time take a peer recommendation over any other source of advertising. So in a social media setting, just what you said, Mark, you want people to love your product, retweet it, talk about it, and recommend it. That's why social media marketing is something we all have to embrace, and it's so important to do that.
And again, I think the core of social media, and it's exactly what we're doing here, is conversation. So when you write or produce great information, that brings out conversation, and then it goes from there.
Yeah, and I suggest don't make it a sales pitch. Do what Frank says. Make it a story. And it's like you say, make it a conversation. If you go on Facebook, and I have a guy on my Facebook that keeps trying to sell knives, and I keep trying to tell him, quit doing that. So I actually banned him finally. I'm not even going to follow him anymore. Because everything was an ad, buy my stuff, buy this, buy from me, buy now, I got this special, go take a look at it. It's a conversation. It's not a marketing platform, per se. Yes, you can market, but you've got to do it correctly.
Yeah, very good.
All right, guys. Coming up on the top of the hour, let's maybe wrap it up, or is anybody, Frank, you got anything, or Dick, you want to talk?
No, I can wrap it up.
Okay. Let's start with Dick.
Alrighty. Well, It's been an interesting hour. I did have a couple things to share, but I think for time's sake we'll do them next week or when
Oh no,
when
why
we
don't you
have
talk
time.
about the
But
stumble on? Talk about the
well,
stumble upon.
just briefly, Peter tipped me off on I called Stumble Upon, and I signed up for it. And you can pick 5 things you have interest in, and they will send you information and articles and stuff on those 5 areas. I love to cook, and one of them is cooking, and I got 2 or 3 great recipes already I never even thought of. But the other thing I put is entrepreneurship, and they sent me yesterday a thing at 10, excuse me, 10 YouTube videos every entrepreneur should watch. So I'm just going to mention one of them for now because we are running out of time. This guy, his name is Seth Godin. He's a tremendous marketer, and the title of the YouTube video is "Ideas That Spread Win," and he talks a little bit about the guy Otto Rottweiler who invented sliced bread, and he had a patent on the beef slicer and everything. And 17 years later, it never took off, and nobody wanted sliced bread. His patent ran out. Wonder Bread saw it, started marketing and advertising, and the rest is history with sliced bread. But he talks about marketing in general, and I think I would recommend it tremendously. He talks about TV advertising and how that's phasing out because of the internet. It's a great video, and I'll mention some more as we get into further podcasts. But the thing that I said, because there's like 10 of them, they talk about Steve Jobs and Bill Gates and this guy Seth and all this, and I say, well, how the hell do I relate to these people? Well, I watched 5 of them, and I realized I don't relate to them. I learn from them. There's a lot that can be learned from how these people have become as successful as they are. And even at 74 years of age, I learned in watching these 5 videos today. There's just so much more to learn in life, and there's just another way of doing things. So, like I said, I'll recommend some more, but I do recommend Ideas That Spread Win. It's a marketing philosophy that Seth Godin has. And with that, I say happy 4th of July and have a safe and happy 4th of July.
Yeah, now Dick, send me those URLs and I'll put them in the show notes for people to watch. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Yep.
All right, Mark, you want to wrap it up on your side?
Again, I want to thank everybody for inviting me. I really enjoy the information I'm learning through these podcasts. Again, happy 4th of July to everybody, safe and sane, and we'll see you next week.
All right, Frank, wrap it up.
Yeah, again, I always enjoy. I always feel better at the end of the show than the beginning of the show. My parting words would be, when in doubt, tell a story.
Okay, that's good. I think cheating husbands have that down pat. Little side twist there. I think that comes more natural to some people than others, but telling a story is great. I think one of the things that's becoming very obvious to me, these podcasts are extremely rich, and there's something for every entrepreneur in these podcasts. So let's get the word out. Maybe you guys tweet out or send invites to watch the show. To 10 people, and we'll just start spreading the word that way. Okay.
Right.
And everybody have a good 4th. So thank you much. I'll stop the podcast.
Good night, Dick.
Right.
Good night, Dick.
Good night, Dick. That's right. Jeez, I almost forgot our own
Good night, Dick.
monicum here. Good night, Dick.
Good
All
night,
right.
Dick.